So Salamangreats have been played in a ridiculous amount ever since they came out, and this year's Nationals is going to be no different. What's going on, you guys? Slim here to finally bring you guys the next episode of preparing for the North American World Championship qualifier, and you guessed it, it's salad time. Those of you that know about this, man. I have like a lot to say about Salamangreat, but really not that much, if that makes any sense. In a sense, basically meaning that I think this deck's going to have an insane representation. Again, I've already talked about which I think are going to be the most represented decks, but I was thinking about it the last couple of days after I made those first two videos, and I had to go back and think that, I forget one very important thing about the Salamangreat deck. It came from a structure deck, and whenever a deck comes from a structure deck, man, it has so much easy access for every player to get. It also came with Ash Blossom. Like, it literally did everything. And then I realized, oh yeah, duh. I made a video about how Salamangreat saved Yugioh in the sense that the structure deck making, great reprints, making basically almost an entire deck for a returning player, for a player, that wants a budget option, budget. Don't worry, we'll touch on that. But basically, that deck is like readily accessible to so many people, so many players that, yeah, it's going to have a lot of representation. And, just like we did on the first two episodes, we're going to talk about, representation, what to prepare for, just the simple stuff. And there's one thing, that I'm going to talk about a lot. You're going to hear Dweller a lot. I'm going to say that a lot just because this is the deck that plays Dwellers. So, yeah. So we'll talk about that. But, yeah. Salamangreats for the North American World Championship qualifier. Will they be represented? Abso-freaking-lutely. Like, it's not even a question will they be represented. The deck is, almost everywhere. Like, I'll be honest, I was a little surprised at Knoxville that, it did have a decent representation. It was one of the top 4 most represented decks. To be honest, I expected it to be more represented than Thunder. The reason why I say that is because usually that's kind of how it is. Salad is usually very heavily represented. And because of that, like, I kind of thought the same thing. But, I'm kind of glad I was proven wrong because you guys know, personal bias, love Thunders, blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, no, I'm not going to, count Salad out at all. I think the deck is going to have one of the highest representations because there have been people that have been playing it before it came out. There are people that are playing it the minute it came out and it became readily available, and people continue to play with it because the deck is simple. The deck is quite simple in what it does, and it's very consistent at doing that. And even though they lost debug, like, don't care. Like, that was the thing. It was funny. Like, when I did my ban list reaction, I realized, like, yeah, I noticed that players were already starting to cut debug. So it's like, okay, did they play the flame guy? Did they play the buffalo? Maybe, maybe not. Some people play it. They really like it. Some people don't like it. Cyanic mining, came out giving them more support. Some people don't even like cyanic mining. Like, I'm being honest. Like, some people don't like it either. It just depends. Like, having, like, comboing that with, like, freaking Gazelle, comboing that with Spinny, like, any of that stuff is just insane. But I really think that a lot of people, a lot of players that are playing the deck, have stuck with the deck for the most time. It's very consistent. If you guys saw our regionals, it was, it topped. It ended up getting second place. It was like insane. The deck has really, done its job. And, just at the last regionals for the season, within the like California, Nevada area, they had the Las Vegas regional. My boy Brandon got second place with it. I think first place was Striker. I could be wrong. Might have been another Salamangreat. But yeah, basically he almost won the regional. He got second place with Salamangreat. And, it just shows that players are going to continue to play this deck because it's consistent and it gets the job done. Like, that's the thing. That's the thing. Is I personally have not been a fan of the deck, but I'll tell you one thing, like I've said in all my videos, it's like you have to learn about that deck. You have to know about that deck because if you don't, it's going to catch you by surprise. And I think the thing that most players need to realize with Salamangreat is that the Salamangreat player, 9 times out of 10, they're going to blind Dweller. Here we go. It's Dweller time. Yeah, Dweller. And I say this because, man, does Orcus and Danger Thunder get the dick from Dweller. Like, no joke. Like, I know it's possible with, with decks to play through Dweller. It has happened before. I've been Dwellered in the past with Danger Thunder and still been able to play through. But, your hand just has to be really good. You have to be able to play through all of that. And, your Danger's not resolving kind of sucks, and stuff like that. But Dweller's just a really solid card, against Orcus, against Danger Thunder, against the mirror match. Like, against the mirror match, you could just Dweller. It's just like, okay, well, they can't really play. So it's like, it's pretty crazy. But I think that's the thing about this deck is I've seen it evolve from, like, like where they were making Baguska to where they're making Dweller. I've seen Tornado Dragon. I've seen so many different rank 4s that they pick kind of as like their weapon of choice. And, you know, Dweller has just really proven to be that card. It has proven to be that one rank 4 that really gets the job done. And it's because it's so good against a mass amount of, you know, decks this format. You know, anything not being able to resolve, you know, in the graveyard is insane. And I think that, you know, this is the deck, like I've said before, this is the deck that does it. This is the Dweller deck. I call it the Dweller deck because it has all these fire monsters, and then, you know, at the end they're gonna try to they'll probably blind Dweller, or they'll end on Dweller because it's a safe play. If they're playing the mirror match, it's good. They're playing Danger Thunder, it's good. They're playing against Orcus, it's good. You know, it's crazy when you can just kind of blindly set up a monster. Like, even if your hand isn't that great, you can set up a Dweller and, you know, buy yourself a turn. Like, that's kind of insane, you know. Like, I've always you know, kind of in a sense respected that about the deck because it has that versatility. You know, Dweller's such a good card. They're the only deck, one of the few decks I know in the meta that can play it. Like, you know, why would you not play it? You know, and even when they're playing Baguska, you know, Baguska messed a lot of things up. However, Baguska lost to Link monsters. So the fact that Dweller just doesn't lose to Link monsters as much is crazy because Dweller's effect will still linger. So it's nuts. But things you need to know about. So of course, you know, on this series we talk about, you know, how effective are hand traps. And I was actually playtesting, believe it or not. I was actually playtesting last night against Salamangreat, against my brother Jerry, and I got him with I was hoping to get him with a Gamma on like one of his, you know, like it was like Gazelle or like whatever. It ended up resolving on an artifact Lancia of all things. I went Sekka's Light, and then after I did that, he Lancia'd, and then I had the Gamma, and it made me think, you know, I really wanted, you know, to basically to use the Gamma like to catch a hand trap or to catch like a normal summon or something like that. Because one thing about Salamangreat, you stop their normal summon, it's really, really impactful. So Gamma was just an amazing card, and I think it's a hand trap we're gonna see more at the NAWCQ. Is if you guys have seen, like, it's starting to become a trend. You know, Gamma is one of those hand traps. It's like this the entire format. It's like it's good at one point, bad at another, good at one point, bad at another. You know, it just keeps going back and back and back. And I'll tell you, I think Gamma overall just is a very solid hand trap. Ashes, you know, of course, Ash, you know, there's a lot of things you can Ash. There's Veilers, there's, you know, Phantasmes, and here's the thing, I know, everyone's gonna be like, okay, yes, you say Salamangreat is budget, you know, minus the Phantasmes, I know. Here's the thing, like I've always said, if you read Phantasme before it came out, if you prepared for Phantasme, you probably bought Phantasme, you probably traded for Phantasme, you might have been lucky enough to pull Phantasme. If you're playing Salamangreats competitively and at the national level and you're wanting to top or win, you're playing Phantasme. Like, I already know that. I already know that for a fact because the majority of players that are playing Salamangreat are playing Phantasme. And if you don't have access to it, I know you can just play other hand traps. I think Ghost Ogre is another really amazing hand trap against the deck because being able to ogre that normal summon is huge. Ogring the debug. I know it sounds crazy, but you ever read some of those feature matches like from the last YCS? They literally still open the debug without Silent Mining. Like, it was crazy. So you always got to run those numbers. You know, you never know if they're going to open it. You know, it's a 1 in 40, 1 in like 40 whatever count deck, and you know, being able to ogre the normal summon is huge because when they lose their normal summon, it takes a lot from the deck. They can't go into their first link, and it hurts a lot. You know, like I said, Gazelle is just an insane card. It's another card you want to hit. I've been told by Salamangreat players that if they normal summon it, it can sometimes foreshadow that their hand is not that strong. So that gives you another point to interrupt them. So if you hand traps are basically your best friend, you know, also in this deck. I've seen Veiler be insane when watching the mirror matches. Veiler on the Sunlight Wolves, Veiler on like whatever has been nuts, and it's just been really crazy. And you know, a Phantasme, of course, you know, is great against this deck. They drop their Link monster on their first Link monster, whichever Link monster it is. Usually, what, Balinks? They go Balinks. You drop Phantasme, fix your hand. You know, they've got to deal with a Phantasme, which is one thing they kind of struggle with. You know, things like that. You know, they start to recur their traps back and everything like that. You know, hand traps, like I said, will always be good against pretty much every deck. Like, they have applications for the most part. You know, outside of like Mind Burn, but don't worry, that's definitely coming up in this series. But other things I really like playing against this deck are, of course, Denko Sekka. I think Denko Sekka is still just insane. Yes, they don't play that much back row. It really depends. Like, it depends if they're still playing Sanctum. I know for a fact that we already know they're going to be playing Roar and Rage. You know, being able to lock those cards down is nuts. Being able to Twin Twister them, you know, as well is just so important because those cards really do hurt. Let me tell you. Like, yes, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, the counter trap is the counter trap. You know, you just bait it out. Yes, but let me tell you, when they flip the Icarus attack, it hurts. Like, it really hurts because they're always going to be hitting 2 cards usually. I think only like if you don't have a lot going on or they don't have a lot going on, they need to to get, they see a problem, they'll hit it with the trap, they'll only hit one. But I really like the fact that, they basically can set these cards, like literally can set them in the graveyard, set them like it's nuts. And, the thing is, you just want to be prepared for that. You want to make sure you have proper back row removal, proper back row stunnage. I think Orcus already have an amazing matchup because they have, light stage, because of the Trickstar engine, stun a back row is pretty cool. So, you just have to deal with their back row, and then their monsters are not that big. Fusion of Fire is kind of falling out of contention. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. I've not seen a lot of Fusion of Fires in a lot of main decks at all. So it's definitely something that, has changed, that most lists I don't really see it. However, I think there was one player, I believe the one who got top 4 at the last YCS, I believe played one copy. I could be wrong. So it's hard to say if that's really become the trend or not. Then there are people that are, playing Super Poly in the main deck. Super Poly, I'll be honest, I don't got an answer for Super Poly because there is no answer to stopping Super Poly. So yeah, if they Super Poly you, they Super Poly you. That's another thing is, don't blindly walk into, multiple back row. Always check the graveyard, to see, okay, how many roars have they used, their rage, etc., etc. And, it can kind of give you an idea, okay, well, what possible traps could they have? Some Salamangreat lists would go as far as to play real traps, like Strike. I don't know if I'd see Warning or Judgment there, probably not, but for the most part, like, they're mostly, their own traps, and then they play, sometimes they play Impermanence, but Impermanence will usually be activated from the hand, or they'll set it, and, they'll still spring it on something, so, you have to keep account for that. I mean, the deck is pretty straightforward, and that's the thing, like, in this episode, it's more straightforward, I think, than, like, the heavy combo decks, like, all the different things, all the different interactions, and, like I said, Dweller, if your deck gets hurt by Dweller, you gotta prepare for Dweller. And I can tell you right now, Gamma on Dweller is pretty nice. It's pretty nice. I've done it once so far in testing. It's actually really nice. They, they go Standby Dweller, chain, and be like, oh, it's like you get 2 monsters on the board. If you're playing Orcus, that's like what, full combo right there because you already got 2 monsters. They literally just go to your Nightmare, you combo out. It's crazy. So yeah, definitely something to remember is account for Dweller if you see a Salamangreat player. And one thing is, you'll know that you're playing against Salamangreat. They'll start with their Rhoda, they'll do whatever, like, you'll know. And, a lot of times you just really have to pick your poison with, what you want to destroy, how you want to destroy it. Denko, like I said, is one of your best options, as well as, just adequate back row removal. And, overall, like, you just, when it comes to your side deck, which will be another video we'll make, hopefully right before the NAWCQ, is proper, like, side decking and stuff, like how to utilize your 15 cards the most, because it's so important. But yeah, so overall, that's it. Those are basically my thoughts on Salamangreat. The deck, like I said, is very straightforward, very simple at what it does. I call it Dweller.deck, even though I know they're all fire monsters, but when a deck can utilize Dweller, I mean, why would you not, when it's definitely one of the most impactful XYZs, even after all these years. Definitely going to be definitely one of the top contenders at this year's NAWCQ. But as always, let me know what you guys think. I'm sure I left out plenty of options for you guys, cards you can use, different strategies you can use. Are you one of the many players who can be playing Salamangreat at the NAWCQ, and if so, why? How do you counter side what most people are siding for you, and what has been like your proven method of going in to the event with this deck? You was considered a budget deck until Phantasme became a thing, but if you already picked up your Phantasmes, it's definitely one of the best and probably most consistent decks, and in a sense, it's one of the most simple decks to play for the NAWCQ. If you're looking for consistency and you're looking for something that works and something that will just get the job done, that's the deck for you. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.